Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Been a while since I made a sit-down video, but I figured it was time. Yeah, it's been a slow couple of weeks for the most part. Free agency has slowed down to a trickle, so I didn't have a ton to say, so I just decided I wasn't going to make videos. I already made my draft content, most of it. I already made most of my free agent content. You guys know how I feel about most things by now if you're watching my videos, but some news came down yesterday and I figured it was time. So before I get into that, first of all, if you're not coming to my streams on YouTube, which I stream usually once or twice a day, I don't know what you're doing, but we have a lot of fun in our streams. We talk a lot of Seahawks football. We talk about a bunch of stuff, actually. And right now I'm playing Persona 5 Royal, which is phenomenal. Amazing game, by the way. If you're interested in watching me play Royal, come watch me play Royal. If you're not interested in that, then just come in. We can talk about football. And yeah, basically, that's the best way to contact me right now. That's the best way to get some content from me. Just come to my streams, pick my brain, and we'll have some fun with it. Second of all, if you can hear the noise outside, I'm sorry. People are doing work around the house right now, or we're doing work around the house right now, taking advantage of this strange time in our history to get some things done around the house. So sorry if you can hear that. But yeah, yesterday we got a little bit of news. First bit of super impactful news in a while for this team. Jadeveon Clowney is extremely unlikely to return to Seattle. The report yesterday indicated that the odds of Clowney being a Seahawk in 2020 were practically nil. So that is in direct contrast to the reports I heard before this, which were that Clowney was most likely to return to Seattle. So it seemed like a fairly reputable report. It seems like there might be some bad blood now between the team and the player because we lowballed him. And I mean, it's fine. I knew this was a possibility going into free agency. And given what I'm seeing with Clowney and some of the baggage that dude has, this is probably for the best. But we're kind of up against it now, and it's really getting dire. So Clowney, just to comment on it, I think there is maybe some delusion and maybe some denial on his part about his value. He seems to think that he's worth more money than he is, and no team is willing to bite. I think he's a little delusional about his value, and I think Clowney's a really good player. I do. I think he is great against the run. I think he's a dis- destructive pass rusher. I think he makes your defense better, but bottom line is he doesn't finish plays very well. And when you combine that with his injury history, the thought that he could become the highest paid defensive player in the NFL was always kind of silly. And after last year, when he amassed all of 3.5 sacks, was just pure insanity. I also think that, he's probably panicking because he's got an injury history. I think he tore his ACL before, and now he's got this sports hernia. I think he's realizing this could be his last chance at a big contract. And now he's starting to realize, I'm not going to get that big contract. I'm not going to make the money I thought I was going to. I think he's panicking a little bit. I think he's starting to freak out. And I think that that is keeping him from accepting a deal closer to what he actually earned based off his play the last couple of years. So that divide to me seems insurmountable. I think the Clowney's going to go to whichever team offers him the most money. I don't think that team can be the Seahawks, and I don't really want that team to be the Seahawks. I mean, to my knowledge, teams like the Dolphins and the Jets and the Titans have offered him 14, 15, 16 million a year, and I don't really want to get up to there. I don't really want to offer him that kind of money. So, yeah, I think Clowney is probably going elsewhere. I don't think this is a done deal for a couple reasons. One, this report is a contrast with the reports that I've seen over the past couple of weeks about how Clowney's likely to return. And I think Clowney's ultimately going to go to wherever he can get the most money. So if that ends up being Seattle, then I don't think there's enough bad blood there to drive him away. But it seems like he's not going to come back. And the issue we have now is we've got a couple weeks before the draft, like 3 weeks or something like that, and We need to make sure that we can take the best player available, within reason, but the best player available with our picks. Because right now, if we were to draft today, there would be immense pressure on us to take several defensive ends, pass rushers, really high in the draft. And that's not a position you want to be in. That is the position that netted us L.J. Collier, who will never be a good pass rusher in the NFL. Ever. Even in his best case scenario, he is not a pass rusher. So that's kind of the issue. If we do not address this problem in the next couple weeks, we will be putting ourselves in a situation where we are pigeonholed into doing one or two specific things in the draft. And that means teams can take advantage of us with trades and with smoke screens. And that's just not a position the Seahawks team seems to react well in. We all know about our history with first round picks lately. So if it's not Clowney, the list of options is getting small, but it is still a list. We have Marcus Golden. He's one of the top guys on the list because he's not going to demand big money, but there are, excuse me, there are some red flags with Golden. There's reason to believe that he's not great at getting consistent pressure, and his sack total probably oversells him, but he's definitely a guy we have to take a look at now because we need somebody. Everson Griffin is kind of the perfect guy to fill this hole, in my opinion. He's not over the top old yet to the point where I'm afraid he's going to fall off a cliff, but Everson Griffin is definitely a guy I would love to bring in here, and I think he would free us up. And the only other guys I can think of would be Clay Matthews, who is 34 years old, and he's an outside linebacker. He's not a defensive end. I don't want to put Clay Matthews out there with his hand in the turf 95% of his plays. I don't think his body can hold up to that. So that's kind of our choices now, and we need, not just want, we need to bring in one of those guys. At least one of those guys. If not those three guys, then we need to make a trade for Yannick Ngakoue from Jacksonville, which would probably be expensive, or we need to make a trade for Matthew Judon from Baltimore, which would be somewhat less expensive, but there are some red flags with Judon. Because with the team in its current state, where, if you were to, in your head, make a list of who are the decent pass rushers on this team, you would say Bruce Irvin, Jarron Reed, Benson Mayowa, and Rasheem Green. Those guys have proven they can at least be okay pass rushers in the NFL, and we can reasonably expect them to be okay next year. But that is not enough. None of those guys are over-the-top studs. Not Jarron Reed, who got his 10.5 sacks 2 years ago as a second as a sidekick to Frank Clark. Not Bruce Irvin, who honestly doesn't have elite pass rush skills, especially not anymore, and never did. So we need to bring in another guy who can at least kind of get consistent pressure on the quarterback, because I do not want to go into this draft in a couple weeks thinking to myself, we have to spend our first round pick on a defensive end, because then you get exploited. Then you find yourself reaching. Then you find other teams, like I said, they take advantage of you because they know what you need, and everybody's going to know what you need. I refuse to believe that this team honestly believes the pass rush in its current state is good enough to get it done next year. The pass rush in its current state will be worse than it was last year. We've lost 3 of our best pass rushers from last year. Clowney, Quentin Jefferson, and maybe you could say Kendricks. He was actually a pretty good pass rusher for us. But yeah, so that's what my mind is on right now. I need to see some urgency from this team to get a deal done with one of those 3 guys or one of the 2 trade targets. If I don't, then I'm really going to be worried about where this organization is headed, because to me, it is very obvious that this current defensive set of players is not going to be able to get enough pressure on the quarterback next year. So Everson Griffin would be ideal at this point. If it's Matthews or if it's Golden, I have concerns, but at least we'll be attempting to address these problems. And Make it happen before the draft. All right. Peace out, Go Hawks. I will stream later tonight probably. Come catch me if you want to. And, you know, we got time, but it's starting to run out. That's all I can say.